In the news this week, make up your mind on The Voice. An exclusive WAMN news poll confirms whether you have set your ways in the upcoming Voice to Parliament referendum.
Also tonight, the latest analysis of the Rockingham by-election and what it means for the 2025 state elections.
Community in shock as police investigates a suspected double murder-suicide incident across Perth suburbs.
Controversial One Nation leader Pauline Hanson in Perth as she campaigns against The Voice. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loon and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. The Voice to Parliament debate takes an interesting turn with an exclusive WAMN news poll revealing whether you've decided what you'll be voting for in the upcoming referendum. The final results of our poll shows 90% of you declare yes, you have made up your mind. Meanwhile, just 10% of you saying no and you are yet to make up your mind. With WA heading towards a no vote, can the Yes campaign turn things around? Grace Harrington begins our coverage.
With the Voice to Parliament referendum still months away, the latest WAMN news poll shows that many of our viewers have already made up their mind, despite there being limited information available. The final results this week show 90% of participants confirming that they have made their decision on The Voice already, while only 10% say that they are yet to make up their mind. With national polls showing that the support for the No campaign is continuing to increase in almost every state, the question remains as to whether or not the Yes camp can turn things around.
And to believe that people have actually made up their minds even without looking at that information is concerning, because these are the same people who are voting no who actually said that they didn't have enough information to make a decision on, and yet they've made up their minds.
Two of Perth's prominent community leaders have responded, believing that voters will change their minds when more information on The Voice becomes available.
Yeah, my view is this. Yes, some people have made up their mind, and on both sides of the argument. But I sincerely believe that, both sides of the argument, when they become a lot clearer and more persuasive, and dare I say factual, I would say that many people who have made up their minds are very likely to change their minds.
What it does show is that there is a very, very big campaign for us in the Yes area to get out there and make sure that we get to those people and actually explain what the information is and what the necessity there is to make sure that they vote yes.
Some of the more pressing questions regarding The Voice are, what will happen if it is passed, and will a treaty be next? Suresh Rajan says the community should not be concerned about the treaty, as the document aims to treat First Nations people with respect. It's never about the money.
The treaty is about saying we will treat you with respect and we'll accord you the same respect that you accord us.
So it's not about money. So it's not about money.
No, it's not about money at all.
Okay, so it's been taken out of context then?
Completely. It is fear-mongering around the treaty. People are saying that the treaty is going to lead to compensation. It hasn't in New Zealand.
To ask some serious questions, Michael Mansfield, who I've got a lot of time and respect for, in one of the ABC shows, did make the point that the Labour Party has gone with the easy option and they've ignored the treaty and truth-telling. But you really need to ask yourself, if that's what the basis of the No campaign is, does he really think that Peter Dutton and people who support him are actually going to be promoting a treaty? I mean, we're kidding ourselves.
The referendum will be held later this year. Grace Harrington, WAMN News.
The dust has settled in the Rockingham by-election, with Labor securing a predictable victory in the party's safest seat in the country. Despite the challenge from independent candidate Hayley Edwards, Labor's Magenta Marshall prevailed in the contest. Here is veteran political commentator Peter Kennedy.
Well, the Rockingham by-election really saw the Labor Party vote return to what it was in the pre-COVID days. A big drop in the Labor vote, of course, without Mark McGowan. Magenta Marshall won the seat, not with an absolute majority. That's something that she'll have to work on for the state election in less than 2 years' time. The Liberal vote picked up a very useful gain as far as the Liberals' Peter Hudson is concerned. Almost doubled the vote, actually, from the state election 2 years ago. So there's some heart there for the Liberals to work on. and with regard to the Rockingham Deputy Mayor, she performed very well and a solid vote, but not enough to really upset the result of the by-election. As far as Labor is concerned, the drop in the Labor vote compared to the election a couple of years ago will mean a lot of backbenchers will be very nervous because they will see that if that vote is repeated at the state election, they will lose their seats. The question is, how many will lose their seats? So that's a problem for Labor, that's a problem for the Premier, Roger Cook. As far as the Liberals are concerned, they've got to build on the results of the Rockingham by-election. Peter Hudson almost doubled the Liberal Party vote. That's a promising result for the party, but they still have a long way to go. Rockingham, not great territory for the Liberals, but they've got to develop policies, they've got to develop strong candidates. Peter Hudson proved to be a very useful candidate, and with those combined, they will attract donors to help with strong campaigns. But in summary, Labor's retained the seat. That's important. There'll be nervous backbenchers. That's going to be a problem for Roger Cook, and he'll have to manage that between now and the next election. Peter Kennedy, WAMN News.
Hi there. Are you looking for a new home or want to refinance your car mortgage to get a better rate? At AA Finance Solutions, we have the expertise and knowledge to help you to find the right loan for your needs and budgets. Contact us today. Let us help you to make your home ownership dream a reality.
AA Finance Solutions, your local mortgage broker.
Emergency services have responded to a suspected double murder-suicide incidents across Perth this week. Detectives from the Major Crime Division are investigating the death of a 32-year-old woman in South Guildford and a 33-year-old man in Innaloo. The 32-year-old woman was found shot dead inside a home on Sabrina Road in South Guildford at approximately 10:40 a.m. on Thursday. Emergency services were called to the home following a concerned welfare report. At around 11:30 a.m, emergency services were then called to a fire in an apartment on Escort Road in Innaloo. A 33-year-old man was found dead upon arrival. Police believe the man's injuries were self-inflicted. It has been established by detectives that the man and the woman were known to each other and that two incidents are linked. Police inquiries into the circumstances surrounding the deaths are ongoing.
WA police have seized several kilograms worth of illegal drugs while investigating outlaw bikie gangs in the state. More than 40 kilograms of methamphetamine was found by police who have charged 3 people. Last month, the Serious and Organised Crime Division and Gang Crime Squad investigated several members of the Mongols outlaw motorcycle gang, which led to arrests and seizures of 42.7 kilograms of meth and over $50,000 cash. A 27-year-old man and a 37-year-old man were arrested after 7 search warrants were executed on the same day. Police allegedly discovered a quantity of cocaine and $60,000 in cash. They will face court in late October.
There are fears that the prices of food, meat and vegetables will go up with the consultation costs of the First Nations Land Heritage Act revealed by local MPs on social media. Consultants will be charging between $80 to $120 an hour or $900 a day. Meanwhile, CEOs can charge up to $2,100 a day. Landowners, farmers and contractors will have to front the costs. Liberal MLC for Mining and Pastoral Regions, Neil Thompson, expressed deep concerns that it may pass on to consumers.
This has created massive uncertainty. We need to be able to expand our growing areas. We need to be able to provide fresh and affordable food for our families, the hard-working families that are suffering. This is going to have a knock-on impact. You take out tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, 86 million in fees revenue now into the WA budget just for the application fees, not talking about all the other assessments. That's actually in black and white in the budget. Tried to be sneaked through, no, without fanfare, but it's in the black and white in the budget. That comes out of those growers, those farmers, those contractors who operate the land who will have to pass those costs on to the consuming public, yes.
Perth's inflation rate reduced to 4.9% till June 2023. The government claims it's the lowest rate compared to other capital cities. Meanwhile, Perth's consumer price index remains below the national average of 6%. The 0.8% CPI increase is in line with the national average. Compared to the peak of 8.3% in December 2022, inflation has declined significantly for the second quarter. These figures are lower than the Cook government's Treasury forecast of 5%, excluding the electricity sub-index. During the state budget, then Premier and Treasurer Mark McGowan announced a third round of electricity credit during the state budget. WA Deputy Premier and Treasurer Rita Safiotti said the latest result confirms WA has passed the peak of inflation.
And now here's Leo Puglisi with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thanks, guys. On 6 News, specialist Navy divers called in after a military helicopter crash off the Queensland coast. The Greens stand defiant on the government's signature housing bill. And in sport, the AFL launches an investigation after Port Adelaide's Aliir was let back onto the ground just minutes after a sickening head clash. Watch live on our YouTube channel and our website, 6newsau.com. For now, though, it is back to you.
Thanks, Leo. It's been a very big week of news here in WA, with the Rockingham by-election wrapping up, but the debate on The Voice continues.
That's right. With more coverage about that, here's Grace with WP. Good evening, Grace.
Thanks, Ivan and Melly. Welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Grace Harrington. This week, controversial One Nation Senator Pauline Hanson visited Perth during her nationwide trip to promote against the Voice to Parliament. The Queensland Senator spoke with hundreds of supporters on the No campaign and the First Nations heritage laws, which sparked deep concerns among farmers and developers. While Ms Hanson admits that her views can be polarising, she maintains that Australians deserve to be informed on both sides of this ongoing debate. Here's an extract of our interview.
Okay, Pauline, thanks for your time. And
my pleasure.
Good to see you again, WA.
Thank you.
We're running a news poll now. We're asking people, have they made up their minds? Around 120 people have put their hands up so far. 89% says they have made up their mind already. Only a handful, around 11% says they haven't made up their mind. What does it mean?
Because they don't truly understand. They haven't been listening to the debate. They haven't tuned into, the TV stations, radio programs. These are people that aren't in contact with the media or getting right advice, direction with it, and they're confused.
So with so much people already made up their minds, what do you think?
Well, it's a clear indication, my talking to people, that they have made up their minds and they definitely don't want it, so they'll be voting no. So I'm hearing a strong no case for it. People find it divisive. It's not good for Australia.
Around 100 people come and have a listen to you. Does it mean that people actually want to know when they hear both sides, both the yes and the no, and actually make a final decision?
Yeah, look, I think I'm a bit of a polarising figure with regard to this, and people are interested in what I have to say. Look, people may not always agree with everything that I say, but they're interested in what I have to say, and I think that's why, look, there's well over 100 people. There's close to over 200 actually booked to come tonight, but people have made the effort to come here to hear what I have to say, and just to get confirmation of their way of thinking. Well, I'm thinking no, is that the right thing to do? And I think it's a good indication.
Now, in this legislation, the poll has jumped sharply. That's according to the papers only at this point. Do you expect more blowback? Because the government say right now there's a grace period for a year.
Are you talking about the cultural heritage where the polls have turned back? No, the more people understand this legislation, when they see that councils, the Madura Council, I think it is, that have actually been affected by this, they couldn't do the tree planting. People are seeing now how stupid it is and the impact it's having. We're talking about planting trees for the environment, and they couldn't even do that. Then you had different Aboriginal groups fighting over the opening of a bridge here in Western Australia. This is what the government's done: introduced legislation that is divisive, dividing us as a people. We are all Australians together, regardless whether you're Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, or whether you've migrated from another country, we're all Australians. And this is divisive. And this is only a taste of what will happen with The Voice as well.
On the No campaign, you're going to be continuing to go hard on the No case, I assume. Will you be travelling around the country to push for that?
I've done a few speaking engagements with regards to it, with the No vote. Yes, I will. And I think it's important that people have a better understanding and hear what I have to say with regards to it. But I've been speaking out against this since last year, for over a year now, since I heard about The Voice.
Delaying the referendum to around mid-October, do you believe it'll be good for the No camp or the Yes camp?
He hasn't given a date yet. He said it will be between October and December. Isn't it funny? Why can't the Prime Minister, the legislation's passed to hold the referendum, why can't he give us a date? Because he's unsure himself, because he's frightened that it's headed towards the No vote, and he's trying to give himself as much time as he possibly can to possibly pull it back.
Would you like to see a prime time debate between both major leaders featuring Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese just on the Voice issue alone?
No, I'd like to see it between Linda Burney and Jacinta Price.
Okay, well, why so, please?
Because they're both Aboriginal, and Jacinta Price has clearly stated a case that she feels there shouldn't be any division between it. So they are both Aboriginal women. They are both stating a case, one's for and one's against.
Finally, what's the next step for you and the No campaign?
Just travelling around talking to people to explain to them why it's important not to vote for this. It is divisive. And we are all Australians, should be treated equally on an individual needs basis, and race should have nothing to do with it.
Pauline, good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
That was Pauline Hanson. Next week, we will endeavour to bring you a response from community leaders who support the Yes campaign in order to balance tonight's interview. And now, here is Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. Just wanted to share with you a couple of thoughts about the upcoming referendum, which there's a lot of talk about the Indigenous voice to Parliament. We've been looking into the health impacts of this because obviously from a medical point of view, the thing we're interested in is will it help us to close the gap on healthcare outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia. And the overwhelming opinion of the Indigenous community seems to be that yes, it will. And obviously they're the experts in their own area, but also talking to the Indigenous health provider organisations, they're positive about the idea that having the voice to Parliament could prevent the expenditure of large sums of money on programs that just don't work because they're imposed by bureaucrats and people who don't have the knowledge on the ground that would be helpful. And one example that's been given to us was of the remote dialysis services, where a lot of money was spent to try and set up dialysis for people with renal failure in remote areas, but because they had not cleared this with the local people, with something imposed from outside, the money was essentially wasted because they didn't have the infrastructure in place to deal with such a service in remote areas properly. Governments, I think, often make the mistake of thinking that spending money is the same as solving a problem. And it would be good if that was the case, but unfortunately what happens if you spend money on a bad solution is you just have a bad solution and a lot less money than you had in the first place. So one of the things that really appeals to me in terms of this idea is that Aboriginal people themselves, the people on the ground, will have the same voice in Canberra that people like the AMA do, people like the mining industry and other lobbyists, organisations that can afford to have an organised presence in Canberra. We know it's very important in the medical profession that we keep speaking to politicians directly. The First Nations people don't have the same access to Parliament, and this is a solution that the majority of First Nations people are supporting overwhelmingly to get that kind of lobbying voice happening at a level where we can make decisions that will not only improve things for Indigenous people, but for all of us, because none of us want to see taxpayers' dollars wasted in future, as they have been many times before, on schemes that are thought up by people who don't have on-the-ground experience. Thanks very much for your time.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller, and that's Western Perspective for this week. We'll be back next Sunday. Until then, it's back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Grace. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.